Hey, hello everyone. Welcome back. Thank you for joining me today. So today is an exciting video. They always are, but this is the August installment of trying a new black-owned indie brand every month. So this month I'm trying Makeup Addiction Cosmetics. I've heard really good things about them as per usual, but they recently had a sale. I think it was in July. It was in July for sure, where everything was 60% off. And so I was like, this is the time to take advantage because they are a UK based brand. So when you convert that into Canadian dollars, they are actually pretty pricey, but I've heard really amazing things about them. And based on like just looking at these products that I have here, I'm really excited about them, especially because I got them on a really good deal. So that's always good. So quickly, I'm just going to go over the products that I have here with me today. So the first thing I have is an eyeshadow palette. It's the Meadow eyeshadow palette. I wanted this smoky one originally, but it was sold out. And so I got this one instead, but it still looks really beautiful. The packaging is like kind of cardboard, but it has like a sticker over it, which is fine. It's just not the most like really like high-end packaging I've ever seen. Again, definitely fine. I'm not like a super intense packaging person, but this is what the color story looks like. It's really actually really beautiful. And I'm really excited to play with this. I have swatched this, and it's the shimmers especially and the mattes. It just feels really nice. I just cannot even wait. I think I'm going to swatch everything with you guys together live. Then the next thing, okay, so then I got two highlighter palettes because I couldn't choose, and like I said, they were really discounted, so I was like, I'm gonna get both. I just almost dropped it. So this is the Holy Glow Volume 1. It looks like this. This is their, obviously, one of their highlighter palettes. It looks like this, really, really beautiful. And again, when I swatch them, it looks like they have some really beautiful shifts. So even though these two look quite light, they are not as light as they appear in the pan. But again, I think I'm going to swatch everything on my arm just right now. And then I got the Volume 2. Again, looks really, really pretty. And again, they're like powder products, which is only what I have here today. Based on everything I've swatched, it's so creamy and beautiful, and I'm very pleasantly surprised. And then this is a very random thing that I only purchased because it was like on sale, and I was like, I want to get this. It's their Holy Glow Fantasy. I think it's technically considered to be a highlighter palette, but I would not use these as highlighters. I would just use these as like eyeshadows, but again, they're just like bright, fun eyeshadows. Has a unicorn on the front of it. I'm not like a super unicorny person, but some people are. I don't hate it actually. So I think I'm just going to swatch this on my arm. So I'm going to start with the eyeshadow palette, the Meadow palette. And another thing that I like is that they have the shade names on the back of all the palettes color coordinated. Because sometimes I get really confused. Like for Colourpop, for example, they have like the shades on the back of the palette, but it's like, I don't know if it's the way that you look at it directly or like matched on the back. Anyway, I'm not making sense. We're just gonna start swatching it. So the first shade in this palette, I'm going to swatch it from this shade from left to right when I look at it. The first shade is the shade Sandstone. It's basically a really light metallic pink. I'm just gonna build that swatch up just so you guys can see. Yeah, really beautiful. Their metallics feel very like creamy, and their mattes feel super smooth as well. The next shade is the shade Sweet Peach. It looks like a very just tan beige color, really smooth. My swatches aren't the best, but I think you can get the idea of the shade. And then the next shade is a matte like brick red. It's called Dusk. Super smooth. Oh, that did not swatch very well though. So that's again a horrible swatch, but you get the idea of the color. The next shade, the last shade in the top row, is the shade Slate Green. It's a beautiful, to me, it's not a green. It's a like metallic deep blue with, looks like a gold reflect. It looks really beautiful. Then we have the shade Bronzed Leaf, which I'm sure you would expect is just a bronze shade. That's super beautiful. And then the shade Pink Blossom, which is a metallic pink. The next shade is the shade Poison Ivy. It's a metallic green. It's basically just like a true green that's really pretty. And then the last shade in the palette is the shade Crushed Blueberry. This is a really deep navy blue. I mean, that's one swatch, and I didn't like really dig my finger in the pan or anything. This looks absolutely beautiful. Now I'm gonna swatch the highlighter palette, so I think I'm gonna go over to this side and just do it on my other arm because I don't have anything here with me that is going to remove swatches. So this is the Holy Glow Volume 1. It's their Volume 1 of their highlighter palette. I'm gonna go this way. So the first shade is it looks like it's like a white. This is gonna be very questionable. Okay. So yeah, you can see it's just like a white, very bright highlighter. So this white one is called White Diamond, and then we have a peachy shade which is called Pink Champagne. Their like shimmer formula looks so beautiful. And then we have the shade Golden Beam, which looks like a very like light yellow gold, and I mean it is a very light yellow gold, but you can see it has a really strong golden undertone, which based on my first initial impressions seems like that would make it work on a wider variety of skin tones. It's not so icy. It does have a pretty strong gold like base to it. And then we have the shade Sunkissed, which is basically just a champagne. I don't know if I'd be able to get away with wearing that on my own cheeks, but it looks really beautiful nonetheless. I might be able to if I use a light hand or mix it with something. Then we have the Volume 2, so this is the second highlighter palette. The first shade in here is the shade Pink Flamingo, and this is very much a white to pink duochrome. It has like a white base with a really strong pink shift. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that, but it looks very, very pink when you swatch it, even though it looks pretty white in the pan. Then is the shade Champagne Fizz, which is a pinky champagne shade. It's like a light pink with like a golden undertone. And then we have the shade Mermaid Mist, which is, it looks, again, it kind of looks like white-ish in the pan, but it has almost like a green undertone. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that. It's right there, but it looks very like actually like green with a pink shift to it. Even if I don't wear this on my face, it looks like it's going to be a beautiful like shadow inner corner highlight. It's just a really beautiful glowy powder. And then the last shade is the shade Sunset Bronze, and this is I'm so excited to use this as an eyeshadow. It's so creamy and beautiful. Look at that bronze shade. That's absolutely gorgeous. And now we have this unicorn palette, and I think I'm just gonna swatch this on my forearm. It might be, or I guess I could swatch it on my hand. Okay, maybe I'll swatch it on my hand. So the first shade is the shade Sun Dragon, and it's basically a really bright gold. You can see it like that. It's just essentially a gold, but it's super bright. The next shade is the shade Unicorn Glow, and I'm so excited to wear this shade. It's a pink with a blue, I don't know, okay, maybe. A pink with a blue shift to it. I think you can actually see the shift on camera. Look, that's so pretty. Next is the shade Ivy Lord. It's basically a really bright electric green. And then last in this palette is a purple, and it's the shade Fairy Jewel. It's that on the end. So was this an unnecessary purchase for me? Yes. Am I sad about it? No. I think these are really beautiful metallic shades, and I haven't put them on my eyes yet, but I imagine they're going to be beautiful. So I'm going to zoom you in. We're going to scooch down a little bit, and we're going to start with the eyeshadow palette. So the only pause that this eyeshadow palette gives me is that the deepest shade is this blue shade, and then the mid-tone shade is this really warm, like reddish shade. So normally I wouldn't blend a blue into a red because it's going to get likely pretty muddy. So we might just try to do that and see how she goes. I don't think it's going to turn out necessarily well. So I'm going to start off with this Sweet Peach shade. It's basically, like I said before, like a peachy tan color. And I'm going to put this in my crease just as a transition shade. I feel like I always have like positive first impressions, but seriously, these are like some of the creamiest shadows that I've ever swatched. And I've primed my eyes using the NARS Smudge Proof eyeshadow base as usual, and I've set my lids as well with my face powder. Well, that was an absolute joy to work with. That is such a beautiful peachy shade. Blended out absolutely beautifully. So now I'm going to take this reddish shade called Dust. I'm going to take that and put that on my outer V and in my crease. And then we'll decide what to do with this blue shade. Again, blended out really well. Look, I mean, you can see it for yourself. I'm not gonna lie, the brush that I used, the Morphe brush that I used is getting to the end of its life. It's not the best brush that I could have chosen, but the shadow is still nice. And now I'm just blending the very edges of this out with a totally clean brush. So here's the thing. I'm going to take the blue, okay, and I'm gonna try to put it into my crease. I might just try to concentrate it right in the outer corner. And before you criticize me, I know that it's not gonna blend that well, okay? Like, I know that. Just leave me alone. But I'm just gonna try it, okay? So I'm gonna take the deep blue shade, and I'm going to, ooh, see, like, that blue is beautiful. Like, you can already tell that's such a beautiful matte. Unfortunately, it's just not the best choice to pair it with, on my part, to pair it with a orangey red. But that's what we're gonna do. I feel like if I just take a little bit, see, it's so pigmented. So be careful. But I feel like if I just don't blend it out too much, Like, I'm gonna leave it at that and blend out the edges, and it might be okay. Okay, so now that I have that laid down and I'm looking like a crazy person, I'm gonna take a touch more of that dusk shade, so the red shade, and I'm just going to like gently blend the very edges of the blue and try to like kind of merge those two colors together. But inevitably it's gonna get muddy because we're blending a blue into like an orange, and I'm really trying not to over blend. But I will say this blue is like, I'm honestly like so blown away. It's a beautiful blue. I almost feel like this palette is worth it just for this one blue shade because it's like the blue shade of dreams. Okay, so my camera cut out because we hate each other, but I finished blending. Then I took this opportunity to cut my crease because we all know that I'm just gonna cut my crease. So I'm just gonna take a little bit of that red, now be very careful because the crease is looking a little bit muddy as I expected it would. I don't think it's looking horrible, but it's, like I said before, it's inevitable that it's going to look a little bit muddy and a little bit kind of weird because you're obviously blending a blue into an orange. I'm just going to, I messed up and I was forgetting to do this step, so you see a little bit of shimmer on my lid, but I'm just also going to put a little bit of this red on my lid as well. I don't think that my crease looks bad. I think it kind of looks cool, but you have to be willing to accept that you kind of might look like you got punched in the face a little. And I'm going to take that blue, like the slightest tap of it because it is so pigmented, and I'm just going to define the edges around the concealer just a touch. And then I'm going to intensify the outer corner once more. So I'm going to take this blue shade, which is called Slate Green. I refuse to call that a green because in my opinion it's not a green, it's a blue. But I'm going to wet that a little bit because I wet all of my shadows, my metallic shadows, so I feel like it's only fair to wet shadows that I'm like trying for the first time. And I'm going to put that in the center of my lid. On the same brush, I just wiped it off. I'm going to take this green shade. It's the shade Poison Ivy. I'm going to wet that as well and put that on the inner third of my lid. I'm just going to take that slate green shade on the other side of the brush and just use that to blend them into each other. They're both like green toned, so they're meshing pretty well. I'm going to take a little bit more of dusk and just pat that on, just get a little bit of a blend. And just to help blend everything a little bit more, I'm going to go into that Sweet Peach shade, and I'm just going to go over the very edges of the orange red. For my brow bone, I think I'm going to take this shade Sandstone. It's like this light pink shade, and I think it should be okay. It might be a little bit shimmery for my specific taste, but I'm just taking a small amount. Just in the interest of time, I'm going to quickly just finish up my lower lash line. All I'm going to do is put the orangey dusk shade on my lower lash line, blend it out, add the blue to deepen things up along my lower lash line, and then blend to the very edges with Sweet Peach. Okay, so I just finished my lower lash line. I'm looking a little bit like a zombie, but I'm not mad at it, honestly. And because I want to use this palette, I'm going to take the shade Ivy Lord. So it's this like really bright electric green. And I'm going to put this in my inner corner. Wow, that's beautiful. Obviously, if you want to use these as highlighters on your face, more power to you. That's amazing, but I think I'm gonna mostly use these as shadows. But yeah, so that is the eyes done. So I'm gonna zoom out a little. Okay, so I'm gonna zoom out a little and we can use one of the highlighter palettes because I honestly don't think I'm going to be able to use both on my face because I only have one face. But, okay, so I'm going to use the shade Mermaid Mist from the Holy Glow Volume 2, so the second highlighter palette. It's the like greeny toned highlighter. So I'm gonna use this on my cheeks, and we'll see if I decide to use another one on my face, or on the rest of my face, yeah. So you can see this is like actually super green. I mean, it's very bright, very pretty, but definitely very green toned. I was planning on going to the grocery store today, so people are gonna be looking at me a little, I think, but I have to wear a mask anyway, so. So on the rest of my face, I'm going to go into the shade White Diamond. It's the really like light white shade from the first palette, and I'm just going to go all around my face with this, and I'm using like a very light hand, but you can see it's like super bright still. Holy shit, that's a forehead highlight. All right, let me just maybe I'm just gonna take my foundation brush and dab that out so it's a little bit more subtle. I'm gonna go on the bridge of my nose and again blend it out because these are pigmented highlighters. That is for sure. And my Cupid's bow. Okay, so I have my highlighter on. I'm very happy. I'm just going to finish off my blush, do my lips and my lashes and liner and stuff, and then be right back and we can conclude this video. I'll give you like my overall thoughts. Okay, so I just did liner and lashes. I used, again, the Maybelline Total Temptation mascara because this is just the mascara that I'm using. I just used a black in my waterline. I used Colourpop Swerve. And then for blush, I used the Burts Bees Blush in Toasted Cinnamon because the eyes are really quite loud, so I tried not to take too much away from them. And then on my lips, I used the Rimmel, what is this even called? I think it's called the Lasting Finish Lip Liner. This is the shade Natural. Oh! It's very small, as you can see. And then I also used the Rimmel The Only One matte lipstick in the shade Trendsetter on my lips as well. So I have to pee really bad, so I'm going to make this brief, this overview, but overall it's 100% positive. This palette I had such a fun time using. This formula so far from what I've used is just like one of those eyeshadow formulas that's just a pleasure to work with. You don't have to work for it to use it. It just goes on your eyes, you blend it out. You don't have to spend a ton of time thinking about using it. It's just like fun to use, and I really like the color scheme. I think it's really unique, very much as apropos for the name of the palette. It's very meadowy, and I mean, my crease is a little bit muddy. I've said that 1,001 times already. That's not the fault of these shadows. It's just because I blended a blue into an orange. But I'm really excited to keep playing with this. I'm so pleased. The Holy Glow Fantasy palette. This isn't something that I think I needed. It's just something that I decided to pick up on a whim. Based on the one shade that I use so far and the like formula of the other products that I've used, these are just really beautiful, fun, bright shadows, and I'm very pleased that I have this. I think it's fun for a pop of color for sure. And then the two highlighter palettes, they're beautiful. You can see my highlighter is very intense. They're quite bright, but I think they're just super beautiful highlighter formulas. In terms of like their shade selection, I think they do have a pretty good range of shades. This is definitely like overall a lighter palette, although with the shifts of some of these shades, I think they would be able to suit deeper skin tones as well. Like this is pretty pretty intensely gold. This is obviously a really pretty peachy shade, and this is like a pretty mid-toned champagne. And this palette is really beautiful as well. Most of these I think I would end up using as eyeshadows. This is quite green, but once I blended it into my blush and stuff, I don't think it's overly like green, overly obnoxiously green. I think these are beautiful highlighters. I can see myself reaching for these a lot, and I'm just really excited to keep playing with these products. I'm really happy that I ended up buying from this brand, and if they have another sale like they did with this one that I bought from, I might decide to check them out again, because their eyeshadow formula is so good, and I'm always happy to support a smaller brand. I think that this, based on what I've used so far, I think more people, I'm surprised that more people haven't been talking about them, to be honest, and I think they definitely deserve more love. So I'm excited to keep playing with these, and I will update you when I feel like I thoroughly tested them out to the best of my ability. Let me know if there's anything that you want to see from me in the future, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye. And then is the shade Ivy Lord. Ivy Lord? Ivy Lord. So how could I make this eye look less fucking weird? Oh my god. There was a squirrel that just ran by my window and it scared the living shit out of me.